In this episode of our Promised Land series, we learn about the pilgrimage feasts of the Lord recorded repeatedly in the Bible, and we discover the archaeological remains that confirm their significance in ancient Jerusalem. The Jewish people have a long and incredibly significant history in the Promised Land, and specifically in the city of Jerusalem. As mentioned in previous episodes, Jerusalem is mentioned hundreds of times in the Bible, emphasized as the city God chose as His eternal dwelling place. In fact, in the Bible, 3 of the feasts God commanded Israel to keep can only truly be kept by making a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. This is a journey that even Jesus and His earliest followers were particularly familiar with, the meaningful journey to God's house on the Temple Mount. But what did a journey to the Temple Mount actually look like during one of the pilgrimage feasts? What did they involve? How important was the journey for Jewish people in Israel and around the world? And can archaeology really verify that these pilgrimage feasts really happened in Jerusalem? Today, I'd like to invite you to the heart of ancient Jerusalem, where we will see up close the incredible archaeological remains that reveal a thriving Jewish presence in ancient Jerusalem and highlight just how important the biblical pilgrimage feasts truly were and still are for Israel. During our quest to visit all of the most significant sites in Israel, Isaac and I spent a lot of time exploring Jerusalem. But of all the places in Jerusalem that bring the Bible to life, the city of David stands out. This is the original Jerusalem, and it is here, at the ancient Pool of Siloam, that a pilgrim's journey to the temple would begin. Isaac, this is what we believe to be the Pool of Siloam. For many years, you brought us here, other people brought us here, and all we could see were just a few of these steps, and something amazing is happening here. Tell us about this discovery and what we're likely to see in the future, maybe.
Thank you very much for this question. Now, welcome to the real Pool of Siloam. Now, why did I say to the real Pool of Siloam? Because if you remember, up to 12 years ago, when I brought you here, I used to show you a small, tiny pool, which is on the other side, behind that cliff. Back in those days, we believed that that pool over there is the Pool of Siloam. Today, we know that back in those days, we were wrong. Until January of last year, the only part that we could see only these stairs and this platform. Now, what you see behind this fence, this is the result of the new archaeological excavations that started in January of last year.
So Isaac, we used to only see these steps. How come we see so many more?
Now, what we see here today, we can see at least 3 sets of stairs. This is the first set of staircase, which leads to this platform.
Right.
Over here, you can see the second set of staircase, which leads to another platform, and below that, the third set of stairs, which leads further down. Why is that? Let's not forget that level of the water in the pool was changed from one season to the another. Can understand that, for example, during springtime, level of the water in the pool was very high. During autumn, level of the water was very low. So to make it more possible for people to reach to the water, this way they had to put at least as far as we know today, 3 sets of stairs. Now, 1st century BC, Roman era, the king was King Herod, Herod the Great. Later on, we will talk much more about him. But during the time of King Herod, he improved the area of the temple in Jerusalem and turned it into the biggest sanctuary in the world. Of those days, Temple Mount. Yes. What Herod did, he built a huge plaza around the second temple. Up there, they had enough room, enough space for 500,000 people all at the same time. Now, we're still talking about the time of the second temple. And remember, in those days, during the time of the 3 high holidays, number 1, Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot in Hebrew. Number 2, Feast of the Passover, Pesach in Hebrew. Number 3, Feast of Pentecost, Shavuot in Hebrew. These are the 3 high holidays when hundreds of thousands of Jewish pilgrims came as pilgrims on a pilgrimage to the temple in Jerusalem. Mind you, back in those days, yet no airplanes, no buses, no trains. So if people wanted to come to Jerusalem, they had to walk all the way to Jerusalem. Now, if, for example, you are a Galilean, then you want to come to Jerusalem, you walk to Jerusalem. And this journey will take you something between 7 up to 10 days one way. So when the pilgrims arrived Jerusalem, they were dirty, they were filthy, they were exhausted. No way that when you are dirty, you're allowed to go up to the Temple Mount. So the law in Jerusalem said that every pilgrim that came to Jerusalem, he or she, before they were allowed to go up to the temple, they had to take special act of purification in what we call in Hebrew, mikveh. This can explain why near the main entrances to the Temple Mount, archaeologists discovered tens of mikvehs, but this was not enough. So we know that during the holidays seasons, they used to turn Pool of Siloam into the biggest mikveh here in Jerusalem. So many of the pilgrims that came to Jerusalem, this usually was their first stop. This was the place where they had to take off their dirty clothes, down into the water, immersed themselves in water 7 times. After the 7th time, you're considered as a pure, you come out, you put a new white garment, and then you can continue up to Jerusalem. And this leads me to what we're going to see soon. We're going to see one of the newest, most exciting archaeological discovery here in Jerusalem. During the past few years, the Pilgrim's Road that led the pilgrims all the way from here up to the Temple Mount. That Pilgrim's Road originally was built by King Herod, 1st century BC. This is what we are going to see soon.
I can't wait to see it, so let's go.
Let's go, please.
Don't go away. When we come back, Isaac takes me to the newly excavated Pilgrim's Road that ancient Jews, including Jesus and his disciples, traversed to get to the temple.
Israel is facing one of its most difficult challenges, but with your help, First Century Foundations is making a difference on the ground by supporting local charities like the Joseph Project.
First Century Foundations has been thrilled to be able to help with humanitarian aid items for the warehouse here. But a few months into the war, all of your stocks were depleted. Talk to us about how important it was to get this place restocked.
There's a big request for food all the time. People are without a house, without work, and they need this supply, they need this help. So your donations are great help. It's helping the Joseph Project to keep purchasing these items and making sure it's going to the right people in the land of Israel.
And we just want to remind you at home that your donations matter.
Call today with your gift of $30 or more. 1-877-628-2800.
Well, Isaac, we just came from the Pool of Siloam down below here, and this is exciting. We are on the recently discovered Pilgrim's Road that goes from the Pool of Siloam up to the temple. So give us some context, help us to understand what it is we are about to journey here as we go into this closed archaeological dig.
Thank you for this question. So, Jeff, if you take a look here, over here we have a map that can help us to understand where are we right now. Now, in this map, we can see the Pool of Siloam.
Right.
Okay? And up there, Temple Mount, again built by Herod. And as we say, during the time of King Herod, 1st century BC, he decided to connect Pool of Siloam with the Temple Mount with a big street. We call it the Pilgrims Road. And this is the street that you see here on the map. Now, you can see how wide was the street. And along the street, we can see lots of steps. Yes. And what you see here, this is really one of the latest archaeological discoveries here in Jerusalem. This is the beginning of this Herodian street. The steps, the pavement that you see here, 2,000 years old.
Amazing.
This is originally Herodian. Now, what we see here today is very narrow because archaeologists excavated this part of the street. Originally, 2,000 years ago, of course, the street was much wider.
Yes.
And if we could be here 2,000 years ago looking up above us, we could see the sky. Remember, nowadays, we're below present-day street level.
Well, I'm excited to see more. So why don't we go and get behind closed doors here?
This is very exciting.
Very
because
exciting.
Right now, we're entering a private area.
Yes.
Private area, and we're going to see an active archaeological dig.
Let's go.
Let's go.
It was helpful to visualize the extent of the 1st century Pilgrim's Road, but I was eager to see it for myself and share it with our viewers back home for the first time. Walking on the 2,000-year-old steps that led up to the temple is an experience I will never forget. Well, Isaac, we are now inside of this not open to the public dig. Very exciting. And this is the Pilgrim's Road. So tell me a little bit about these pilgrim festivals. Tell us, what does that entail?
So, every pilgrim that came to Jerusalem, as you said, first of all had to go and to purify himself or herself in a mikveh. After you dip yourself 7 times in the water, you're considered as a pure and clean. You come out, put on new white garment, and now you can continue to the temple. Now, what you see here, this is the middle of the Pilgrim's Road. This is almost halfway. Remember that this road was about 1,900 feet long. From bottom to top, this is halfway. Another important thing, many of the scholars suggest that maybe while the pilgrims were walking up here, again, you see the topography, you're going up to the temple, many suggest that this is where they were praying actually the Song of Ascent, or they were singing the Song of Ascents here in the middle of this street, going up the stairs.
So Isaac, these are people that are coming, not just from the Jerusalem area, they're coming from all
over the world of those days.
Of those days. So what does the city of Jerusalem look like during these feasts?
Oh, amazing. The city was extremely crowded. And of course, inside the city, not enough room to accommodate all of these pilgrims that came from all over the world. So we know that during holidays seasons around the city, like on Mount of Olives and all of the surrounding area, they used to build some camps and tents. This is where the pilgrims used to stay for the night. But during the day, of course, everybody came here to Jerusalem, end of the day, back to their tents. Another important thing, remember that along this road, there were private houses, which means if you could be here 2,000 years ago, okay, along the right and the left side of this road, there were private houses that belonged to the people of Jerusalem. Most probably, of course, they would open their houses offering cold water, for example, to the pilgrims that walked all the way up to the temple. So you have to imagine extremely busy street during holidays season.
Yeah, that would be unbelievably kind of shoulder to shoulder amazing. And then to hear them singing together.
Very powerful.
Very powerful. And those songs of ascents we know are found in the Psalms, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. We're standing on the biggest archaeological evidence of what we're talking about right now, the road itself.
Absolutely.
What other archaeological proofs do we have that this pilgrim's roadway exists? What other things have they found to date to the
Coins,
area?
for example. Coins from the time of the Second Temple, and also what we call foreign currency, which means not only coins from Jerusalem, from the land of Israel, also coins from other different countries, and of course pottery. Lots of pottery.
So people are coming to the pilgrimage feasts. I assume that not everybody can come. It's a special thing to be able to come
And it's difficult.
and be involved in one of these. How meaningful was it to the people of Israel at that time to be able to be involved in these feasts?
You must make a pilgrimage to Jerusalem at least once in your lifetime. Now, you cannot do it quite often because remember, if you want to come to Jerusalem, it is a long way. So you need to walk all the way. And of course, traveling costs a lot of money. Also, you come here, you need to bring with you a burnt offering, a sheep or a goat or maybe a mule, and this costs a lot of money.
Right.
So physically, it's not easy. Financially, it is not that easy. But the law in Israel said at least once in your lifetime, you must make a pilgrimage to the temple in Jerusalem. At least once.
And how meaningful is it to Jews today to be involved in one of these feasts?
Very meaningful, very meaningful. You should see what's going on here in Jerusalem during the time of the high holidays. Jews come from all over Israel and all over the world to Jerusalem, to the Western Wall. Yeah. Now in high holidays, wow, the city is packed.
Amazing. Well, Isaac, thank you. We have a bit of a climb here yet to go, so why don't we continue on our way?
Please, be my guest.
It was so awesome to walk the 2,000-year-old Pilgrim Road that ancient Jews once ascended as they made their way to the temple. I couldn't believe that I was walking on archaeological proof that testified to the deep significance of Jerusalem and the temple in the first century. And it inspired my own journey toward God and my own personal ascent into God's presence. In the heart of ancient Jerusalem, amid the bustling streets and the towering walls, lies a pathway of unparalleled significance, the Pilgrim's Road. This sacred thoroughfare winds its way through the city of David, ascending with each step towards the majestic Temple Mount. It is a road steeped in history and infused with the fervent prayers of generations past, a pathway of pilgrimage and divine encounter. The importance of the Pilgrim's Road is deeply rooted in the fabric of biblical tradition. In Deuteronomy chapter 16, verses 6 and 7, we find God's instructions to his people regarding the observance of the pilgrimage feasts. But you shall seek the place that the Lord your God will choose out of all your tribes to put his name and make his habitation there. There you shall go, and there you shall bring your burnt offerings and your sacrifices, your tithes and the contribution that you present, your vow offerings, your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herd and of your flock. These words served as a homing signal for the faithful, guiding them to Jerusalem, the chosen city of God, and ultimately to the sacred precincts of the temple. Among the feasts celebrated, the pilgrimage feasts held a prominent position, drawing pilgrims from the farthest reaches of Israel to converge upon the holy city. These three of the 7 feasts are Passover and Shavuot in the spring, and Sukkot, or tabernacles, in the fall. They mark 3 important harvests: the barley harvest, the wheat harvest, and the fruit harvest. But they are also commemorative of the sparing of the firstborn from the death angel in Egypt, the giving of the Torah or the law, and the celebration of God sustaining Israel throughout their wandering in the wilderness. Imagine the scene as throngs of pilgrims embarked on their journey along the Pilgrim's Road. Psalms 120 through 134, collectively known as the Songs of Ascents, encapsulate the spirit of these pilgrimages. Perhaps one of the best known would be Psalm 121. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip, and he who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going both now and forevermore. These psalms, sung in unison by the pilgrims as they ascended towards Jerusalem, became a symphony of praise and adoration, echoing through the valleys and hills surrounding the city. Psalm 122, verses 1 and 2 resonates with the joyous anticipation of the pilgrims. It says, "I was glad when they said to me, 'Let us go to the house of the Lord.' Our feet have been standing within your gates, O Jerusalem." These words capture the fervent longing of the faithful as they approached the sacred precincts of the temple, eager to offer their sacrifices and praises to God. As the pilgrims ascended the Pilgrim's Road, their voices would rise in exultant praise, filling the air with melodies of thanksgiving and adoration. The sound of trumpets and tambourines would mingle with the rhythmic cadence of their footsteps, creating a symphony of worship that reverberated throughout the city. I remember as a young person singing one of these songs of ascent in my church. I don't think I realized it at the time, but it was almost directly from Psalm 134. "Come, bless the Lord, all you servants of the Lord who stand by night in the house of the Lord. Lift up your heads in the holy place and bless the Lord, and bless the Lord." The journey along the Pilgrim's Road was not merely a physical endeavor, but a spiritual pilgrimage, an ascent towards the presence of God. With each step, the pilgrims drew closer to the heart of worship, their souls ablaze with devotion and reverence. For them, God's presence was represented by a building and an ark. I'm reminded of the Samaritan woman at the well. In her conversation with Jesus about a drink of water, he revealed to her that worship, true worship, isn't about a geographical location or a building. It is much more than that. Here is part of that story from the biblical account. "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where you must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is Spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth." Jesus was pulling back the curtain, if you will, on what worship would be like in the future after his mission was accomplished. Where they were sitting in Samaria, no doubt they could see Mount Gerizim, where the Samaritans made their sacrifices to God. Their worship was an imitation of Jewish worship at the temple in Jerusalem. But Jesus told her that there was something more important than rote and ritual. Worship in spirit and truth. That's what God is looking for. True worshipers. When Jesus died on the cross during the pilgrimage feast of Passover, the Bible tells us that at the very moment that he breathed his last, the temple veil was torn in two from top to bottom, opening the way for everyone into the Holy of Holies. It was a symbolic act, a supernatural message, a communication from God himself, that through Jesus we now had access to worship in spirit and in truth, just like Jesus had said would happen. You and I have the privilege of being in God's presence at any time at all. We don't have to take a trip or make a journey. We don't have to ascend to the temple or go to a church even. We can be in his presence in nature, in our cars, in church, or wherever we are. In our own lives, we too are called to embark on a pilgrimage of faith, a journey of the heart that leads us ever closer to God. The Pilgrim's Road serves as a poignant reminder of this spiritual odyssey, urging us to press on with unwavering faith and steadfast devotion. Amid life's trials and tribulations, we are called to lift our voices in praise and thanksgiving, just as the ancient pilgrims did along the Pilgrim's Road. It is when our situation is not ideal and when we don't feel like praising God that we should do so as a sacrifice, as this honors Him. Psalm 50 and verse 23 in the Amplified Bible says this, "He who offers a sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving honors me, and to him who orders his way rightly, who follows the way that I show him, I shall show the salvation of God." The writer to the book of Hebrews also picks up on this theme in Hebrews 13 and 15 when he says, "Through Jesus, let us continually offer to God a sacrifice of praise, the fruit of lips that openly profess His name. For it is through praise that we proclaim the greatness of our God and acknowledge His sovereign reign over us and over all creation. As we each journey along our own Pilgrim's Road, may we be filled with a renewed sense of purpose and passion for God. Let us lift our voices in songs of praise, offering our heartfelt gratitude for the countless blessings bestowed upon us by our God. And let us remember that our pilgrimage of faith is not a solitary journey, but a shared experience as we walk alongside fellow believers, encouraging one another and lifting each other up in prayer. Together, let us journey onward, walking the Pilgrim's Road with hearts overflowing with praise and thanksgiving to our God who leads us ever onward in His love and grace. Thank you so much for joining me today as we explored the Pilgrim's Road in the city of David and learned about the incredible meaning that it holds for us today. Please join me again next week as we continue to explore the significance of the Promised Land. I was a pastor for over 20 years before I first went to Israel, only to realize that I had been totally disconnected from the roots of my faith. Since then, I've been on a journey of discovery, and my faith has come alive in ways I never could have imagined. I'm Jeff Feuders, Director of First Century Foundations, and I am excited to invite you on my journey to the foundations of our faith, to discover your part in a Bible story that isn't over yet. First Century Foundations exists to reconnect Christians to the foundations of Christianity. And we do this by creating Bible-based media focused on Israel and the Jewish roots of our faith. But we don't just reconnect you to Israel's history, we help you participate in what God is doing in Israel today by connecting you to over 70 incredible ministries in Israel who desperately need our support. Will you partner with us? Together, we'll explore Israel's significant past while doing our part to ensure that Israel has a bright future.